Uh, Good morning, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Welcome back again, and nice to have you here. So, I have some news to share with you. Also, Tigray Media House video to show you how the Ethiopian government used like 15 and very young 15 years old and younger kids or children in a civil war. Uh, some of them from taken from fifth grade. So it's horrible, and you know, but the Ethiopian government they don't feel any shame on conducting this act. The children deserve better than this war, this bloody war. And they are accusing PDF using child soldiers, but they themselves openly using children. So I have a video to show you from the Tigray Media House. But here are the latest updates on the war front in northern part. Uh, Ethiopia continues air bombardment on civilian targets in Tigray region. Uh, They are not attacking military targets, they are attacking civilian targets. Uh, TDF, the Great Defense Force, now at the door steps of Kombolcha and Dese. Uh, some media say they captured Kombolcha, but it's not confirmed. But they are, according to different media sources, they are at the doorstep of Kombolcha and Dese. And even warned the Ethiopian Defense Force and the militia, Amara militia and others to surrender peacefully or run away for their life from that war front. Also, they warned residents of both Dase and Kombolcha to remain in their houses. They say they are not against the general public, so they advise them to stay indoor. TDF also warned the use of Kombolcha airfield, uh, planes, military or civilian planes, warned not to use Kombolcha airfield. So they are warning not to use Kombolcha airfield. And the Tigray Defense Force also warned the Ethiopian Defense Forces, the Amara militia and other militias to surrender peacefully to TDF or to run away from the war front to save their lives. Uh, so these are the latest updates in that area. The next 24, 48 hours will determine the situation in the Konbolcha and the Dase front. So I will update you if I hear something from that war front. So let's start with a short video from Tigray Media House, how the Ethiopian government is using, misleading these teenagers or children to join this bloody war. Some of them, tricked, and forced to join at this early stage, taking them from fifth grade. Let's listen a little bit about these videos. And I warn you, some of the pictures, some of the video in this presentation is very graphic, so please don't watch with children. And also for yourself, I just warn you, these videos maybe showing you some dead soldiers or injured soldiers. So be careful. Let's see.
እና ወታደሮቹ የራሱ ወታደሮች እንዴት ይገድላቸው እንደነበር አንድ ዘገባ አለሱ አይተን እንመለሳለን። በመቶ ሺዎች የሚቆጠሩ አዲስ ምልምል ሰራዊቶችን በማዘጋጀት ዳግም የትግራይ ህዝብን ለማንበርከክ ያለመ ሁለተኛ ዙር ዘመቻ ለማካሄድ የፋሽስቱ ቡድን መስከረም 27 2014 ዓ.ም ላይ ጥቃት ቢጀምርም ነገሮች የተገላቢጦሽ ሆነበት በአራቱ ግንባሮች ጀግናው የትግራይ ሰራዊት በወሰደው የጸረ ማጥቃት ዘመቻ የጠላት ኃይል እየተደረማመሰና በኪሳራ ላይ ኪሳራን ተከናንቦ እየፈረጠጠ መሆኑን የጀግናው የትግራይ ሰራዊት ዋና አዛዥ ታጋይ ታደሰ ወረደ ሰሞኑ እየተካሄደ ባለው ውጊያ አስመልክተው በሰጡት ማብራሪያ መግለጻቸውን ይታወሳል። በኢትዮጵያ ሰራዊት ታሪክ ታይቶ የማይታወቅ እልቂት መፈጸሙንና የገዛ የራሱ ወታደሮችን በመውጋትም እልቂቱን እንዲባባስ ማድረጉንም በሰጡት ማብራሪያ መግለጻቸውን አይዘነጋም። በጭፍራ ግንባር ከተሰለፉና እድል ቀንቷቸው ከዚህ አሰቃቂ እልቂት ተርፈው የተማረኩት የፋሽስት አብያመትና ቅጥረኛ ሰራዊቶች you will see very young ዘግናኝነቱ እንዲህ ሲሉ ምስክርነታቸውን ሰጥተውበታል። ብዙ ሞተዋል ግን ያላቃቸውም ስማቸው ነው። ብዙ ሞተዋል፣ ብዙ አልቀዋል። ግንባር የሚባል ቦታ በቃ ማነች ጭፍራ የምትባልን ቦታ እንዳለፈን ሁሉንም ወጣት ጠይቅ ወደ ኋላ የምታፈገፍግ ሰው ታለ ጋንታ መሪ የመግደል ኃላፊነት ተሰጥቶታል። በሚሸሹ ጊዜ ነው እንግዲህ ሁሉ ሰው እንደዛ
talking about the ጭፍራ front
ቀብረው እንኳን ሳይሆን መንገድ ላይ ያያችሁት ማለት ነው። ርብርብ ሆኗል።
many died.
እንደ ቆሎኒ ያረገፈው ወጣቱ በቃ ማያውቁ እኛ እንግዲህ ለብሰው ከናል
many youngsters died, killed at the war front.
የረገፉ ሰዎች አሉ። ቀቢጸ ተስፋው ፋሽስት አብይ አህመድ ከሰሞኑ በአራቱ ግንባሮች እየተካሄዱ ባሉ ውጊያዎች ባሰለፋቸው ምልምል ሰራዊቶች እድሜያቸው ያልደረሰ ምንም የማያውቁ ህፃናቶች ጭምር ይገኙበታል። እነዚህ ህፃናት በለጋ እድሜያቸው የጥይት ማብረጃ ሆነው በየበረሃው ወድቀው ደመከልብ ሆኑና በግዴታም ጭምር ወደ ጦር ግንባር እንዲሰለፉ እያደረገ ስለመሆኑ የተማረኩ የፋሽስት ቡድን ህፃናት ወታደሮች እየተናነቃቸው ያዩትን እልቂት አንገብግቧቸው ሁኔታውን በምሬት ይገልጻሉ።
This is taken from 5th grade. They cheated her and they just registered her as 18 years old. She is 15. She's 14 years old.
የፋሽስት ቡድን ሰራዊት ቁስለኞቹን ሳያነሳ የሞቱት ሳይቀብር እየፈረጠጠ መሆኑንም ነው ህፃናቶችን ጨምሮ የፋሽስት ቡድን ምርኮኛ ወታደሮች ያዩት ግፍና እልቂት የሚያብራሩት። በጣም ብዙ ቁስለኛ ነበር። በጣም የሚያስጠላን የወታደር ቢት በነገራችን ላይ እንደዛ አይመስለኝም። ሰው ሲጎዳ በጣም ሲመታም የሆነ ሰው የሚያገለው ምናምን ነው የሚመስለኝ። ጥሩን ሄዱ ጥሩ በመንገርታችሁ በስማ ቀርበል ፈጣሪ ወርቆ ተይዞ ቁስለኛ ማያወጡ ታድሎ የሚሄዱ ጓደኛውን ማለት ነው።
So she's saying, nobody's there to take care of the injured, the dead. They just leave you and run away.
እጅግ ፋሽስት የሆነ እጅግ ባንዳ የሆነ ስርዓት ነው የአብይ አህመድ ቡድን። የኤርትራ ሰራዊትም አምጥቶ በትግራይ ህዝብ ላይ ከፍተኛ ጭፍጨፋ ያደረገ እጅግ ጨካኝ ስርዓት አሁንም የራሱ ወታደሮችን የቆሰሉትን ራሱ ጥሏቸው ነው የሚሄደው። በየትኛው ጦር ግንባር አንድ ትንሽ የቆሰለ ሰው ካለ ጥሎት ይሄዳል። ወይንም ለመሸሽ የሚያስብ ወታደር በጥይት ይገሉታል ከኋላ ሆነው እና የተስፋ መቁረጥ ነው አሁን ሁሉም ግንባሮች እየተሸነፈ።
So that's I just want to show you that very young, 14, 15, 16, very young children used by Ethiopian government to fight this bloody war. And as you heard, they talking about, there is a group, behind them if they want to run back from the front fire. Those armed and ready to shoot them if they want to run away from the fire. So they cannot save themselves in both ways. These are, fortunate children who surrendered to TDF, who are lucky to safely came to in the hands of TDF, and thousands and thousands killed either by TDF or by Amara militia from behind. So this war is bloody, and this use of children as in this bloody war by Ethiopian government need further investigation and international condemnation. Abiy Ahmed is using them for his own power, and he is using these children for his benefit, for his power. Nothing for that country, nothing for the survival of that country, nothing for prosperity of that country. This is illegal. This is a criminal act by Ethiopian government to use children and to trick children in the war front and lying, changing the age. They are 15, but they put on official paper to trick Ethiopians or the global community like they are 18, as you heard. So they should be they should be investigated, and the Ethiopian government should be condemned. I know they don't care. They just order everyone, young, old, men, women, pregnant, non-pregnant. No, nobody cares. They order everyone to fight, and as I heard, nobody there to collect the dead. Nobody there to take care of the injured. So this is the worst war happening in that country, and irresponsible leader is causing this for his own power. So I urge the international communities, those who are concerned for human rights, to investigate this report, the use of children as soldiers. Okay, let's see other news and a couple of videos at the end. There you go. Thank you again. October 26, 2021. House Foreign Affairs Committee resolution passed, Resolution 445. The House Foreign Affairs Committee passed an amended version of House Resolution 445, condemning all violence and human rights abuses in Ethiopia, and calling for all combatants in the conflict in northern Ethiopia to cease all hostilities. Representatives Karen Bass, sharing her remarks on the passage of the resolution, said, "I led this resolution because I want to see a peaceful, negotiated solution to this multi-faced conflict that is complicated by ethnicity, politics, and history." Adding, in addition to the resolution, TPLF must end the use of child soldiers, pull its forces from Amhara, and end its alliance with OLA, Oromo Liberation Army, Shane, an armed rebel function of the Oromo Liberation Army. So now Representative Karen Bass seems a little bit biased, or maybe she didn't see this video. Please, those Tigray Media House, share the video to Karen Bass, the House representative from, I think, from Los Angeles or San Diego, but from California, I think. So she should see this video, the Ethiopian government using children instead of blaming TPLF. So I know she is running for mayor I think maybe that's in her city. That's why she is changing her tone to get the votes of the majority ethnic Amharics and probably Eritreans in her constituents. So her tone is different this time. So maybe she want to get their votes. So, or maybe she doesn't have this information. The Ethiopian government is using children as a soldier. Please share this video. Tigray Media House, please share the video with Karen Bass, House Foreign Affairs member. Below is the full text of the resolution. I don't read the full text. It's 8 pages, but I'll read some of them. Condemning all violence and human rights abuses in Ethiopia and calling on the government of Ethiopia and the government of the state of Eritrea to remove all Eritrean troops from Ethiopia and for all belligerents in the conflict, including the Ethiopian National Defense Force, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, and Amhara regional forces and other armed groups to cease all hostilities, protect human rights, and allow unfettered humanitarian access and cooperate with independent investigation of credible atrocity allegations. So I will go to just to what this resolution is. I don't. If you are interested, you can read the whole report, but I'll go to the last page. Here are the points discussed in this resolution, the House Resolution 445. It calls for the immediate cessation of hostilities in the Tigray region of Ethiopia and end to violence throughout the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Second, calls on the government of Ethiopia and the government of the state of Eritrea to fulfill its commitment to immediately and fully withdraw Eritrean defense forces from Ethiopia. 3. Condemns in the strongest terms, any human rights violations, murder, looting, rape, and other crimes committed by Ethiopian forces, the Eritrean military, or any other forces in the Tigray region or elsewhere in Ethiopia. 4. Strongly disapproves of the escalation of political tension between the government of Ethiopia and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, into armed conflict. 5. Calls for full and unfettered access for humanitarian operations and for journalists and diplomats seeking access to affected areas throughout Tigray and elsewhere in Ethiopia. 6. Calls for the swift and complete restoration of life-saving medical services, as well as the electricity, banking, telephone, and internet service throughout the Tigray region and other parts of Ethiopia where communications have been restricted. 7. Support the joint investigation of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission on human rights violation in the Tigray region. 8. Appreciate the willingness of Sudan to welcome refugees fleeing in the conflict in the Tigray region. 9. Urge the government of Ethiopia to A. Take tangible steps toward improving humanitarian access in keeping with commitment made to the United Nations World Food Programme and the Secretary of State Antony Blinken. B. Pursue accountability for human rights abuses and atrocities. C. Make progress on pursuing a political solution in advance of the planned elections in 2021 and other key issues with regard to the conflict in the Tigray region and the threats to regional stability. 10. Calls on the government of Ethiopia to do the following. A. Ensure that any apprehension of belligerents in the conflict are carried out with the least possible use of force, and that the rights to which those detained are entitled under Ethiopia and international law are fully respected. B. Release all opposition leaders, supporters, and activists detained on the basis of their political activity and views, as well as journalists detained on the basis of their reporting, and respect the rights of freedom of expression of all Ethiopians and political participation without discrimination based on ethnicity, ideology, or political affiliation, and convince a credible and a countrywide process of national dialogue and reconciliation inclusive of all non-violent political parties, ethnic communities, religious groups, and civil society organizations in Ethiopia to work toward the sustainable resolution of grievances and chart a democratic and a peaceful path forward for the country. 11. Urges all parties to the conflict. A. Cease all hostilities, commit to a political solution for resolving existing differences, fully comply with international humanitarian law, and refrain from actions that could continue, spread, escalate the conflict, particularly attacks on civilian targets. B. Make demonstrable progress to guarantee unfettered and immediate humanitarian access for personnel and supplies to areas affected by the conflict, and take all possible steps to protect the safety of civilians, including refugees, displaced persons, and humanitarian aid workers, and allow for and cooperate with independent and transparent investigation of any alleged human rights abuses committed in the course of the conflict in the Tigray region and other conflicts across Ethiopia, and hold all perpetrators to account in a credible process. And number 12, urge the Secretary of State, the Secretary of the Treasury, and the Administrator of the United States Agency for International Development, in coordination with the heads of other relevant federal departments and agencies. A. Engage at the highest level with the government of Ethiopia, the government of the state of Eritrea, the TPLF, and other parties to the conflict to encourage the immediate and the full cessation of hostilities and the full withdrawal of all Eritrean forces, mitigate the humanitarian crisis in the region, and support an inclusive process of national dialogue and reconciliation in Ethiopia. B. Maintain close coordination with international allies and multilateral organizations regarding efforts to address the conflict in the Tigray region and other regions of Ethiopia, and bring attention to the conflict in international fora, including the United Nations Security Council. C. Immediately establish criteria to end the pause of all remaining non-life sustaining assistance to Ethiopia and continue to support programming to meet immediate humanitarian needs, including of refugees and internally displaced persons, advance non-violence conflict resolution and reconciliation throughout the country, and aid a democratic transition in Ethiopia. D. As appropriate, use all diplomatic, developmental, and legal tools to prevent further ethnic-based violence and mass atrocities, including by non-state armed groups, and promote competitive multi-party democracy in Ethiopia. E. Continue to take actions that, according to the Secretary of State Blinken on February 27, 2021, ensure a full, independent international investigation into all reports of human rights violations, abuses, and atrocities committed in the course of the conflict. F. Urgently determine whether atrocities committed in Tigray amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity, and G. Based on the investigation, impose targeted sanctions and accountability measures on those found responsible for committing human rights abuses and atrocities. So the resolution is eight pages, but these are the most points passed in this resolution. So many points. Do we have a listener in Ethiopia? Remain to be seen. So this is a Foreign Affairs Committee passed resolution 445 on Ethiopia, on the issue of Eritrea, on the issue of all other forces, and the issue of human rights violations and other atrocities. So war crimes. So it now is passed in a Foreign Affairs Committee. It will go to the, I think, to the full committee. Finally, we might have this resolution passed by committees, then maybe signed by Biden at the end. So it might take longer. It might take longer, but it's a good start. So it passed in the committee. Okay, but these are not new. These calls are not new. It has, the United States repeatedly call on the Ethiopian government to respect human rights, to end this bloody war, and respect other human rights, including access to humanitarian aids. But there is still a problem. There is still a problem, and the war is expanding. Abiy is not listening. Isaias is not listening. They are waiting for something bigger than warning. Okay. OFC, OFECO, says planned national dialogue fertile, asks for comprehensive transition, including armed groups. Today, in a statement addressing the call by the federal government for an inclusive national dialogue, the Oromo Federalist Congress, OFC, set preconditions for its participation in the dialogue and said that refusal or failure to meet its condition would render its participation futile. The Oromo Federalist Congress recalled the last 3 years' events before accusing the ruling party, Prosperity Party, of increasing its intimidation of its members in the backdrop of its call for national dialogue in the backdrop of the outbreak of the war in Tigray. The statement read, when the country is worsening, political crisis led to the breaking out of a war in Tigray, OFC once again called upon the warring parties to end hostilities and sit down for a negotiated settlement of the dispute. However, the ruling party and its supporters responded with an adverse media campaign aimed at ostracizing and intimidating our party. While dismissing the June 2021 election as a sham, the party discussed its efforts to engage with the ruling Prosperity Party after its conclusion. Just recently, at the conclusion of the 2021 election that failed to deliver both durable peace and democratic governance for the country, OFC made its position to the ruling party in the form of a press release titled, "An election that is not fair and not inclusive cannot deliver democracy and peace." Again, called for an inclusive national dialogue that can lead to an all-inclusive transitional arrangement that can have a mandate to chart a common roadmap that can in turn lead to a stable and all-inclusive government. While discussing the proposed national dialogue, the party went on to set the end of armed conflict, the inclusion of armed forces, and the release of all political prisoners as a preconditions to its participation in the proposed national dialogue. The party insisted on the use of external mediators, arguing that in the absence of a credible internal mediator, the statement read, the national dialogue needs to be convened by an impartial and credible external body acceptable to all parties, recognized and supported by the international community. Here, it also must be noted that, given the present political situation of the country, it is difficult to find a credible domestic entity that is impartial and acceptable to all parties. The party further blamed the current crisis on what it described as trust deficit among the ruling elite, while calling the current proposed dialogue non-inclusive. The statement read, it is OFC's assessment that trust deficit among elite is one of the major contributors to the current crisis, and a non-inclusive gathering in the name of national dialogue convened by partisan entities could only serve to further erode trust, making the ability to solve conflict through dialogue impossible even in the future. The statement concluded by stating the party's position on the current proposed national dialogue and arguing that its participation without the dialogue meeting minimal standard would be futile. The statement read, although OFC has been at the forefront of calling for a genuine national dialogue, unless the process meets these minimal standards, once again, we strongly feel this half-hearted process would make our participation meaningless and the whole exercise futile. OFC cordially calls for all Ethiopians and the international communities to support our effort. So that is a press release from Oromo Federalist Congress, and the credit for that at this standard. So the criteria, the requirements for its participation in the coming dialogue, which is prepared the agendas set by Prosperity Party in the coming 2 or 3 weeks. So it's good. It's good. OFC, Oromo Federalist Congress, led by Dr. Marara Guddina. That's good. All political prisoners should be released. All armed conflict should be in, and those in armed conflict should be allowed to participate. All are citizens of that country. Ethiopia belongs to more than 110 or 117 million Ethiopians. It doesn't belong to Prosperity Party only, or it doesn't belong to Abiy Ahmed. Ethiopia belongs to more than 117 million Ethiopians. All should take part in the proposed dialogue. You cannot exclude Ethiopians by using different excuses or by naming them Onek Shane or junta or whatever names you give them. They are the citizens of that country. They have a stake in that country. They have to take part. They have to have a dialogue how to make Ethiopia better for all Ethiopians. So Prosperity Party thinks Ethiopia belongs to them. Abiy thinks Ethiopia belongs to him. He say he will sacrifice instead of Ethiopia disintegrate. That's false. That's not true. He will run away. He will run away. He and his supporters will run away when things, when the situation becomes dangerous. They will not sacrifice. Mengistu Haile didn't do. So Ethiopia belongs to all Ethiopians. So that is the principles, and all should take part on the to determine the country's future. Okay, this is the last part for reading. This is from U.S. State Department. This is a press release on Sudan's military takeover. So this is a statement. The United States condemns action against Sudan's civilian-led transitional government. The United States strongly condemns the action of the Sudanese military forces. We firmly reject the dissolution of the civilian-led transitional government and its associated institutions and call for the immediate restoration. The arrest of Prime Minister Hamdok and other civilian leaders is unacceptable. The military forces must ensure their safety and release them immediately. These actions have the potential to derail the country's transition to democracy and are a betrayal of Sudanese peaceful revolution. The United States strongly supports the rights of the Sudanese people to assemble peacefully in support of democracy. We are gravely concerned by reports that Sudanese security forces have used live ammunition against peaceful protesters. Security officials should immediately cease the use of violence against peaceful protesters. We also urge the restoration of internet services. These actions contravene Sudan's constitutional declaration and undermine the democratic aspiration of the Sudanese people who have, who have, who have repeatedly called for peace, justice, and liberty in their country. An immediate return to the principles of Sudan's peaceful revolution and the transitional framework laid out in the 2019 Constitutional Declaration and the 2020 Juba Peace Agreement is essential. Concerns about the uneven pace of the democratic transition do not justify abandoning this path. As we have warned repeatedly, any change by force to the transitional government puts at risk U.S. assistance. In light of this development, the United States is immediately pausing the delivery of $700 million in emergency economic support funds to Sudan, which we were intended to support the country's democratic transition while we evaluate next steps. The United States firmly supports the Sudanese people's demand for civilian-led transition to democracy. We are working closely and on an urgent basis with our partners to chart a common diplomatic approach to address these actions and to prevent them from leading to further instability in Sudan and in the region. So this is, as I said, a very strong statement from U.S. State Department on military coup in Sudan, and the situation is, very tense. An emergency is declared in Sudan by the military, and Reuters also reported like already seven people killed and 140 hurt. 140 protesters hurt. So the situation is very tough. And for some reason, the military decided to take over. I don't know why they couldn't, negotiate a better deal with the civilian authorities. Maybe always the military want to take by force. So that is the situation. Let's share a couple of other videos and finish today's presentation. Thank you again for your attention. Okay, let's see.
Hyundai Kona versus Honda HR-V. Hyundai Kona wins every time. Get 1.9% APR. Well, this is what we know so far.
Okay, hold on. Excuse me.
Let's go to our...
Okay, hold on.
Well, this is what we know so far about who's been arrested. Most members of Sudan's civilian leadership, including members of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, have been detained by the military. As we mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok has been taken to an unknown location, according to the Culture and Information Ministry. His media advisor, Faisal Mohammed Salah, has been detained. So has Mohammed Al-Faki Suleiman. He's the spokesman for the Sovereign Council and has been vocally criticizing the military. And the Minister of Industry, Ibrahim Al-Sheikh, and the Minister of Information, Hamza Balul, have also been placed under arrest, according to reports. Let's go live then to Sudan's capital, Khartoum. Al Jazeera's Hiba Morgan is on the line now. Hiba Morgan, Hiba, we're going to interrupt you in a moment because we're expecting a statement. In fact, we're going to that statement right now. Let's listen.
Who doesn't believe in peace and justice? That's why when the December revolutionaries said their slogans, and thousands of them stood in front of the General Command of the Armed Forces responded positively and decided to work to achieve the aspiration of the people, to achieve the aspiration of the nation, justice, peace, and freedom, because we are quite convinced that the Sudanese people deserve a nation that they can practice and see these slogans and these big names in the nation until the moment we deliver power to a civilian government that will achieve more. During this transitional period, the armed forces were quite aware, and the people were quite aware of the partnership between the military people and the civilians to go through the same way in order to achieve the goals of the people through general elections, through the practices that we have been doing and witnessing all over a year. And this will include the leaders and the powers, because other than that, there will be divisions that are a threat to the safety of our nation. Prime Minister Dr. Abdullah Hamdok has seen that in his initiative in July and October of this year. So the armed forces, because it's the constituent power of this transitional period, the armed forces has a national duty to keep the safety and sovereignty of the nation according to the constitutional draft and according to the mission of the armed forces. That's why we need not to distract the nation, and we need not to destroy the nation. We have started our path toward the states of freedom, justice, and peace, but some political powers are still trying to maintain everything in their hands without paying attention to the threats, political threats, and economic threats, and social threats. That's why in the armed forces and the rapid support forces, we were keen to take the necessary steps that will keep and maintain the December revolution until we reach the final goal, which is a civil state via fair and just elections. That's why we decided the following: to declare a state of emergency nationwide, to adhere and to commit ourselves to what has been mentioned in the constitutional document and the agreement of peace in Sudan signed in Juba in October 2020. 3, we suspend the operation of Article 11, 12, 15, and 16, 23, 24, 3, 71, 72 of the constitutional draft, and we commit ourselves to all the agreements signed by us. We dissolve the Sovereign Council and the Cabinet, and we put an end to the job of the mayors and the undersecretaries, and the department and the general of the department in the states will do their job, and we will revise everything, and we will take decisions towards everything And we urge everyone to abide by the agreement of Juba 2020. We stress and we confirm that some of our people in the East have their own sufferings, and we are quite sure that justice and peace must prevail. So we need to work hard in order to reach last solutions that will meet the aspirations of our people and that would sort out the problems nationwide. We believe that the December Revolution is going on because the people who have started this revolution believe in the golden aims and goals of the revolution. And we all, starting from today till the date of the elections in July 2023, we urge everyone to work hard to pave the way for better living, to create a better environment for the parties to work hard until the date of the elections. We need everyone to be ready to lead the country after the elections. A government of independent people will be formed after elections to represent all the people of the Sudan. We will be keen to apply every rule of justice, and we will support the judiciary, the constitutional court, the all the cornerstones that will help our nation to be solid and strong. A revolutionary parliament will be also created to monitor the situation and to monitor the steps being taken for the welfare of the Sudanese people. We need to work hard. We need to produce because our people and our nation deserves all sacrifices. We need to keep our country and we need to keep our people safe. We are quite committed to the items of the constitutional agreement and the Juba agreement. And we urge Abdul Aziz Al Halu, we urge Abdul Wahid Muhammad Noor to join the path of building the new Sudan, Sudan where freedom, justice will prevail, because no group or no individual will impose their opinion again on Sudanese people.
Very
We
good
thank Iran
words.
and we thank the friends of Sudan
I don't
because
know the
their
military can keep
ongoing
the
support
promise.
in order to make this transition period a success. A big
Freedom,
salute to our
justice, all
great
this.
people of Sudan for the sake of the country and for the sake of the nation. I would like to thank members of the armed forces and the rapid support forces who are doing the best. May Allah bestow His mercy on our martyrs, and Allah Almighty will do what Allah Almighty wants, and peace be upon you all.
All right, that was Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the Sovereign Council chairman, speaking on Sudanese TV. Let's go out to our scheduled briefing. Turning to Ethiopia, I can tell you that we remain extremely concerned about the continued escalation of hostilities in the northern part of the country, including new airstrikes over the weekend in Tigray. Yesterday, 2 airstrikes were reported on a textile factory in Adwa town, that's in the central zone of Tigray, and in Tibri, a town in the northwestern zone of Tigray. According to reports, 3 civilians were injured in the airstrikes in the town of Tibri. Our colleagues on the ground are verifying the details of the airstrike and the impact on civilians. Fighting has also reportedly continued in multiple locations in Amhara, leading to the displacements of thousands of people. We continue to remind all of the parties involved in this conflict of their obligations under international humanitarian law to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure. We also continue to call on all parties to the conflict to facilitate the free and sustained movement of humanitarian workers and supplies in Tigray, Afar, and Amhara. Yesterday, Tor Venislan, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, said he was deeply concerned by the continued Israeli settlement expansion in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem. This followed the announcement by the Israeli authorities of tenders for the construction of more than 1,300 housing units in the occupied West Bank. Mr. Venesland reiterated that all settlements are illegal under international law and remain a substantial obstacle to peace and must cease immediately. A quick note on the DSG
Okay, that's enough.
travel by senior.
So if you are interested, you can watch the whole briefing on the United Nations. It's interesting, really, if you are make yourself aware of what's happening around the world. But mostly I focus on Ethiopia and sometimes the neighboring country, the United States and the Middle East, as you said, like between Israel and Palestine. That's a hot issue. This is a burning issue. The world is talking, and the supporters, the Palestinian supporters, are talking about 1967 border. That's illusion. Now it's become illusion. Now Israel is expanded past the 1967 border. Now they're talking about 1,300 new homes on the West Bank. So they are expanding. They are moving forward. That's why I say in the past, to create two states immediately before they lose more land. The more they stayed in this way, the Palestinians will keep losing their lands. So that's a serious issue. We follow it and I will discuss it and I will report to you. That's a burning issue and it's a very fiery, and no one has a closing for that conflict in the Middle East. Not the United States, not the European Union, not the United Nations, nobody. And the Palestinians, they don't have power. The Arab League collapsed. Where is the solution? None. Okay, let me conclude. Please, people who are familiar with the Tigray Media House, please provide the video I show you and other videos you might have to current bus and to other Foreign Affairs Committee, House Foreign Affairs Committee, who just passed Resolution 445. They may not aware that Ethiopia uses many child soldiers in this bloody war. Please share that video to current bus and other members. That's one point I want to make. And the resolution they passed is very encouraging and a lot of points, but how can you enforce it? How can you make Isaias Afwerki and Abiy Ahmed listen to you, or these special militias who are encouraging people to fight and who are shooting their own soldiers from behind, forcing them to fight? How do you, force them? The implementation of the resolution is very hard. How are you going to make these people listen? They don't care about your warning. They don't care about the resolution, I'm telling you. They are looking for something tough, like, declaring no-fly zone in Tigray to prevent civilian deaths and the destruction of public property. That's one major. And as one of the, foreign representatives suggest, using United States Navy to block Eritrean commerce. That will force the Eritreans to come out from Ethiopia. So they have to use some kind of strong action. Words, warning, threats are not working with Eritrea, will not work with Abiy Ahmed, and will not work with these Amara special militias. They are waiting for something big. So we need something big to end this bloody war. So I will be back with other updates, and be safe, everyone. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, share, like my video. So long, everyone.